I just really love this book. Hi people, it's Elly here, and I have my tea, so you know what that means. It's another episode of Tea Time! So in today's Tea Time, I'm going to be talking about Eleanor and Park by Rainbow Rowell. And guys, this book actually took me longer to read than I expected, mainly because I didn't have the time to read. I read it over the course of about 3 weeks, just because I didn't have enough time to actually sit down and read. But I read the last 100 pages last night, just because I wanted to get it over with, and I'm so glad I did, because it was so amazing. I hate labels, and I hate when people label things their favorite, because I feel like favorite is just a word to use for something you like of a certain kind or genre at that certain moment in time, if that makes sense. But I think I can honestly say at this point in my life, after all the books that I've read, I think this one's my favorite. I said it. Eleanor and Park is set in the 1980s, and it is honestly a first love story, and it is just so heartwarming, and I love it so much. Like normal, I'll read you the little inside bit. Two misfits, one extraordinary love. Eleanor, red hair, wrong clothes, standing behind him until he turns his head, lying beside him until he wakes up, making everyone else seem dapper and flattered and never good enough. Eleanor. Park. He knows she'll love the song before he plays it for her. He laughs at her jokes before she ever gets to the punchline. There's a place on his chest, just below his throat, that makes her want to keep promises. Park. Set over the course of one school year, this story of two star-crossed 16-year-olds, smart enough to know that first love almost never lasts, but brave and desperate enough to try. In a nutshell, this is an amazing book. I'm a strong believer that when you fall in love, you don't know it happens, and then all of a sudden it just hits you all at once, and this book definitely displays that. At first, Park and Eleanor don't really get along, and they're just kind of stuck together, but eventually little things start happening that lead them to getting together, and it is just a beautiful, beautiful story that's gorgeously written. Oh, this book is written through Eleanor and Park's point of views, and it switches back and forth almost randomly, so you get to see how they both fall in love and at what different speeds. Park is kind of the guy who just doesn't like her at all, and then all of a sudden something snaps and he's like, bam, I love you. And with Eleanor, it takes a longer time for her to actually realize her love for Park. One of the best parts about this book is seeing the different relationships that their parents have. Park comes from a very loving family where his parents love each other very much, and he has a single brother, and everything's all happy, and he has just a very good life. On the other hand, Eleanor comes from a very dark home. She lives with her mom, her stepdad, and her 4 brothers and sister. And Eleanor grew up not knowing what love really is and scared of it. And Park grew up wanting to experience that love for the first time and wanting to have the love that his parents have. I don't want to give away many spoilers, but honestly, this book is amazing. It's so well written, and the characters are surprisingly relatable. There's so many books out there nowadays where the girl's always stick thin, and it's this popular girl going for this jock, and it's just all too stereotypical and not real life. This book is so real life. Park is half Korean, and I think he's Irish too, if I remember correctly. And Eleanor is this kind of chubby girl with crazy red hair, and she gets picked on, and Park just kind of fits in because he dated the popular girl, but he's just kind of there, and it is just wonderfully, wonderfully written. This book really draws your emotions. Like, one second you're laughing, and the next you're on the verge of tears, even though I don't ever think I actually did cry while reading this book. It is just amazing, and it captures your attention, and it gives you all the feels, and you feel everything. Like, there's nothing you don't feel. You feel anger, you feel sadness, you feel happy, you feel all giddy, and it's just so good. This book deals with a lot of kind of important issues. Besides the whole love factor, it has bullying and different home relationships and how you can be in a good situation or a really bad situation. Some of my favorite scenes in this book are actually when Eleanor is at Park's house. Actually, now that I think about it, a lot of the book is at Park's house. I love that Park's mom hated Eleanor at first, but then when she realized the kind of home Eleanor came from and how she could relate to that, she softened up and she became actually one of my favorite characters. There's also Park's dad, who seemed very strict, but then all of a sudden at the end he just kind of opened up and understood, and everything just kind of happened smoothly. Kind of. This is kind of getting into the spoiler bit. You might not want to watch this if you haven't read the book, and if you have, stay. If you haven't, read the book. Just read it. In the end, Eleanor is faced with running away or staying home and having her stepdad kill her, pretty much. So obviously she opts to run away. Park's dad tells him to go. They go to Minnesota to see Eleanor's uncle, and it's just this crazy whirlwind of a story at the very end. It keeps switching back and forth between Eleanor and Park's point of view, and you get to see what they're thinking and what's going through their minds, and then they kind of go off on tangents, but it just fits so well. The very end, honestly, is disappointing, but I think it's perfect. Eleanor and Park go about a year without really talking. Park keeps sending Eleanor like letters and cassettes and stuff, and she doesn't open any of it, and Eleanor just does nothing. She doesn't do anything to contact Park. In the end, they bring back all these comic books and songs and stuff, and the very last page, the ending, just really hits you. It's the last chapter, I think the last 2 pages. Park talks about how he went to his junior prom, which he was supposed to go with Eleanor. He went with a girl named Kat, and how he didn't really enjoy it. And all of a sudden his dad comes in and he's like, a mail call, and Park gets the postcard from Minnesota from Eleanor, and he never actually says what's written on it, but he said it's like 3 words in Eleanor's writing or something like that, and I assume it says I love you, but Eleanor never actually said I love you in the book, because she was always stuck in that battle between what is love, I can't be in love, and Park was always just like, I love you, I love you. I assume it says I love you, but I've heard theories that people think it also says nothing ever ends, which is the ending of the comic book Watchmen, the final comic book or whatever, that they read together. I like to think it says I love you because that's just perfect and it makes sense. Overall, this book I honestly think is my favorite book, and I've read a lot of books. I give this book 5 out of 5, and that says a lot because I don't do that often. If you haven't read this book, please pick it up. It is honestly so good and so realistic and raw, and it's different from all the other books I've ever read. Anyway, that's it. I hope you guys liked this review. If you did, please give it a big thumbs up and comment down below if you read this book and if you loved it as much as I did, because it's just amazing. Make sure to follow me on Tumblr, Twitter, Instagram, Vine. All my social media sites will be in the down bar, and most importantly, make sure to subscribe because I post new videos every Wednesday in addition to random tea times like this. And that's it, so I'm gonna go. Bye! Eleanor hadn't written him a letter. It was a postcard, just 3 words long. Oh! I really enjoyed that review.